You are watching Nimasa this week, the authorized voice for the maritime sector. Hello and welcome. My name is Iretiola Doyle. Now, the Minister of Transport, Senator Idris Umar, was in Lagos recently to meet with maritime stakeholders for their contributions in establishing guidelines for granting ministerial waivers under the Cabotage Act. Maritime operators are calling for an amendment of the Act to favor local ship owners. Our field correspondent, Chukwu Diogana, has that report.
The Coastal and Inland Shipping Cabotage Act 2003 gives the Minister of Transport the overall responsibility of making regulations and policies for the implementation of the cabotage regime. The emphasis of the Act was to ensure that indigenous ship owners take charge of coastal and inland shipping business in Nigeria. It was also a measure taken to increase employment opportunities for Nigerian-trained seafarers. Over 10 years after the passing of the Cabotage Act 2003, it seemed not to have achieved the original objectives for which it came into being. It was for this reason the Minister of Transport, Senator Idris Umar, met with stakeholders for their contributions in formulating guidelines for granting of ministerial waivers on cabotage.
We do recognize the fact that in the course of the implementation of this Act, a number of inadequacies have been observed, a number of inadequacies have been recorded, and therefore we felt that it was necessary to call the attention of all stakeholders to come and rub minds, to look at a draft policy guideline that were brought out so that together we'll have a better working document.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, as the nation's maritime regulatory agency, is empowered to implement the Cabotage Act. The Director General of Nimasa, represented by the Executive Director in charge of Maritime Safety and Shipping Development, Captain Ezekiel Bala Agaba, acknowledged that challenges are encountered during implementation of the Cabotage Act, but called on stakeholders to make positive contributions towards improved guidelines for granting ministerial waivers.
Nimasa has experienced several challenges in the enforcement of the Cabotage Act 2003. These challenges have prompted this review as envisaged by the Act. It is in the light of the above that I'm commending the effort of the organizers of this forum for providing a platform for all the primary stakeholders to come together to interact, share perspectives, and chart a common course in the best possible way for a better and improved guidelines on the implementation of the Act for onward submission to the National Assembly for consideration and passage into law.
The Executive Director in charge of Cabotage Services at Nimasa, Barrister Callistus Obi Nwabweze, called on stakeholders to be objective in their contributions.
The intention here is not for us to come and grandstand. It is not for us to come and pontificate. What we're here to do is to tax ourselves collectively so that we can come out with something better and beneficial to the economy.
The various stakeholders who had the opportunity to make contributions presented strong cases why changes should be made in the guidelines for granting of ministerial waivers.
Insurance should be recognized as one of the documents required in granting, whether granting waivers for the, do I call them imported or foreign vessels, or even the indigenous shippers, the Ship Owners Association. It should be one of the requirements.
Waiver is not the Cabotage Act itself. It's a relief valve that where we do not have the vessel among our ship owners, let us allow other people to bring in their own so that the business of maritime will not ground to a halt.
In consideration for waiver application, we say the vessels exist in the Nigerian Ship Registry. I think if one looks at it in terms of practicality, well, I don't know, but I would suspect that it would be difficult for the vessel to exist in the ship's registry when it hasn't actually been done. So at the time that the application is being put in, it wouldn't be in the ship registry.
This money that's being made in maritime industry is moving out of the country on the basis that we don't have capacity. Therefore, if it is the capacity that we don't have that is the evil, then let there be that reform. We need a reform that can empower Nigerians to build ship. In agriculture, for example, there are waivers. When you bring equipment that are for agriculture, you don't pay customs. There are some fees that you don't pay. Therefore, what's happened? Why is it that it cannot be applied also to maritime industry?
What we did here was essentially to evaluate the implementation of the Act. And you could see the various inputs from the stakeholders. And I can tell you that the cabotage regime is going to come up stronger and better.
In his final remarks, the Transport Minister, Senator Idris Umar, appraised the stakeholders' contributions and reiterated President Goodluck Jonathan's commitment towards reforming the maritime sector.
The Maritime Arbitration Association of Nigeria, MAAN, which was founded by maritime practitioners, recently paid a courtesy visit to Nimasa. Members of the association declared their readiness to work closely with the agency in the area of conflict resolution within the maritime sector. Our field correspondent, Chukwudi Ogana, reports.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, is committed to performing its regulatory functions to ensure the growth and development of the nation's maritime sector. The Director General of the agency, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akpobolokemi, made the commitment when he played host to the Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria at the agency's head office in Lagos. According to Mr. Akpobolokemi, the maritime sector can only be taken to an enviable height through partnerships with associations like the Maritime Arbitrators.
The advocacy role that you played is worth commending. It is necessary so that we mobilize our people well enough to know the importance of the maritime in the overall development of the nation. It has been relegated to the background in the past, but we thank God for the coming of the present administration. We are waking up once more. And if we go on with this trend in some few years to come, we are going to be respected very well in the Community of Nations as a very promising maritime nation in the world.
He expressed dissatisfaction over the pace at which maritime-related conflicts are handled. He also wondered why disputes that could be settled by the arbitrators should first be taken to the courts.
We all know the problems we have in the country in terms of resolving disputes in our court systems. Normally, a matter that up to end 1 or 2 years can drag as much as 10, 15 or sometimes 20 years. And as lawyers who say justice delayed is justice denied.
The Director General of Nimasa threw his weight behind the arbitrator's role of advocacy in helping the maritime sector actualize the transformation agenda of President Goodluck Jonathan and welcomed the partnership, which he described as mutually beneficial. Earlier in his address, the President of the Maritime Arbitrators Association of Nigeria, MAAN, Dr. Omogbai Omoibo, commended the Director General of Nimasa for his efforts in repositioning the maritime agency to its primary role of ensuring sanity in the maritime sector. Dr. Omoibo expressed the notion that the judiciary in Nigeria has not lived up to expectation in resolving disputes in the country's maritime sector and pledged the readiness of the association to collaborate with Nimasa to resolve issues that will promote the progress of the sector.
There are maritime arbitration associations all over the world, in all leading ports in the world. find associations such as ASTE. So you have the New York Society of Arbitrators, you have the London Maritime Arbitrators Association, which is perhaps the oldest in the world. You have in Singapore, you have in Hong Kong, you have in China, you have in Dubai. So we don't see any reason why we shouldn't have a similar one in Nigeria if we want to continue to maintain a role as the leading port in West Africa, if not in the whole of the African continent.
Top management staff of Nimasa and other members of the MAAN were present at the meeting. The MAAN is an independent body of arbitration founded by maritime practitioners and arbitrators to promote sound arbitration and to establish ethical standards for its membership.
Marine notice to all ship owners, port operators, jetty operators, operations of mobile offshore, drilling units, FPSO, FSO, FSU, ship operators, master of ships, ship agents. Removal of all wrecks, abandoned man-made waterborne structures, disused wellheads, rigs, platforms and floating structures constituting hazards to the safety of navigation and the environment within Nigerian waters. Pursuant to the agency's mandate on the protection of the marine environment and the safety of navigation within the Nigerian territorial waters, notice is hereby given as follows: that all owners and operators of wrecks, abandoned man-made waterborne structures, wellheads, rigs, platforms, floating structures constituting danger to the safety of navigation and environmental hazards at the ports, terminals and within Nigerian waters are advised to remove same within 7 days of the publication of this notice. That failure to comply with this notice shall result in the agency exercising its statutory responsibility as receiver of wrecks and derelicts in Nigerian waters in line with the Part 16 regs of the Merchant Shipping Act 2007 and will attract appropriate sanctions from the agency in accordance with its statutory powers. For further inquiries, please contact the Director Maritime Safety and Seafarer Standards Department, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, 4 Boma Road, Apapa, Lagos. Email address msssd@nimasa.gov.ng, msssdnma@yahoo.com. Website www.nimasa.gov.ng. Signed, Management.
Ever progressive, Nimasa is upgrading its services to meet up with the current trends in service delivery. In addition to the verification of seafarer certificates as well as other services that can be accessed online, the agency is set to introduce electronic payment, which is self-explanatory. This will allow customers to pay the agency online. Once again, our field correspondent Chukwudi Ogana brings you the details.
The advent of the internet has brought about ease in the way and manner businesses are conducted in today's world. It has also improved service delivery from service providers who have embraced the technology to consumers, as their complaints can now be taken electronically. Online services have been defined as performances whose delivery is enabled by information technology. It is a kind of service provided through electronic means. All over the world, websites on the internet have aided maritime administrations to carry out their functions.
A World Wide Web is very, very crucial in the running of a maritime administration. Don't forget that this agency is all about safety and security. And you need to know what is happening in other parts of the world so that you can bring it nearer home. Now, there are a lot of casualties, a lot of accidents, a lot of incidents that happen all over the world. And through the World Wide Web, we are able to access it here in Nigeria and then to take precautionary measures to avoid such an occurrence. And of course, we can communicate with other flags.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, is one of the few government agencies that meet the needs of customers through the electronic service medium. Since the creation of its website, www.nimasa.gov.ng, a number of electronic services have been rendered to its customers. Among them is the online verification of seafarer certificates.
The significance of the online seafarers verification is that employers of seafarers can go online themselves and verify the authenticity of the certificate that you present to them without actually having to call Nimasa. They can get these findings on their own by going online within a few minutes.
A demonstration of how a seafarer certificate could be verified online was carried out.
The first thing you do is to log into www.nimasaseafarers.com. So the next thing you do is go to seafarer verification. You can either verify the medical certificate or the certificate of competency, COC. Enter COC number. Now you have the COC right here in front of you. You look at the number, this is 000484. So you enter the number here, 000484. And then you submit. Okay? So this particular certificate I have here for this gentleman, certificate number 000484, the validity expired 30th October 2013.
The electronic payment system is another online service that is soon to commence at Nimasa. This allows ship owners and other customers of the agency to pay their levies, fines and other charges without necessarily coming to Nimasa's office.
Most of our revenue we get from, on behalf of the federal government, people log in there on the site and transact business remotely from the comfort of their office or wherever they are without having to come here. And of course, we know that we're in the information age. Everything is going So it's one of the steps the present management is taking to make the agency e-compliant.
It was good news when the head of Nimasa's ICT unit announced that more of such online services are to be expected.
In the near future, we are scoping the e-procurement application and e-tendering. In the near future, contractors or people don't need to submit physical tenders to us. All they need to do is just go to our website, fill. Of course, we are developing a lot of work processes with our electronic document management system or integrated document, which we are building. Okay. Now, most of these applications where we have servers running in-house that are facing out using a public IP from our ISP. Okay, you can log onto these servers remotely and do your transaction. So the direction the agency is going now, like the e-procurement I mentioned, is to put in place an e-tendering application so that, for example, when they advertise a project on the paper, when call for tenders go on the paper, you don't need to come to Nimasa. All you need, just log to our website, fill the tender forms, fill all the necessary forms, and submit your tender document or bid document to us. And it comes to the the procurement department, and procurement department processes it and contacts those that have been pre-qualified.
The insecurity of many websites from where electronic services are rendered has been a major concern to users of the internet. Many unsuspecting users of the internet have been defrauded by fraudsters. To put a check on this possibility, the ICT unit of Nimasa ensured that measures were taken to frustrate internet hackers from gaining access to the website and that online transactions are protected.
In our ICT here, we have an enterprise ICT security system which is being implemented that will block all intruders. We have intruder detection and alert system that can tell us when somebody is about intruding into our site or trying to hack any of our ICT infrastructure. And again, our ISP too, they have a robust security system because that's the gateway into our own system. Aside our LAN is well protected.
In his own contribution, The executive director in charge of Nimasa Shipping Development, Captain Ezekiel Bala Agaba, said the bottom line for introducing the electronic payment was the envisaged value.
It is a waste of human resources and for somebody to leave his office to Nimasa to get a debit note on services or 3% levy on the freight. The manifest is fixed. It's given to a vessel when the vessel departs coming to Nigeria. So you should be able to post it online to Nimasa. Nimasa will use it to generate the debit note and send it to you electronically. And then you can use it to go and pay. And when you pay, it will show in the system that you have paid. We can now generate a selling clearance for you to go. You don't have to come to us.
The introduction of the e-payment system into Nimasa is another plus to the Director General, Mr. Zakede Patrick Akpobolo-Kemi, in taking the agency to greater heights.
Nimasa, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. For Obonga shipping registration, no. Nimasa, commercial shipping, no. Nimasa, maritime labor,
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, the nation's maritime watchdog, established to promote maritime safety, security, commercial shipping, and regulate maritime pollution. Nimasa is well positioned and committed to take the development and standardization of Nigeria's maritime industry to greater heights. Are you interested in the local or international commercial shipping business or in seafaring and do not know what to do or how to go about it? Nimasa will guide and see you through. Sea pirates, oil thieves, and all forms of dubious and illegal business on Nigeria's maritime domain have no hiding place because Nimasa's eagle eyes will locate or catch up with you. For Nimasa, it is zero tolerance to sea pollution as all abandoned ships and wrecks on Nigeria's waterways which pose danger to sea transportation will be cleared. Nimasa, promoting safe and secure maritime environment.
During the week, members of the planning committee of the largest annual maritime event in Africa, NIMAREX, which will take place in March this year, paid a courtesy call to the maritime regulatory body here in Nigeria, Nimasa. This they did to solicit their support in their preparations towards the 2014 Expo. Our field correspondent, Amanda Akpan, presents that report from our studios.
In preparation for the Maritime Expo, NIMAREX coming up in March 2014. The NIMAREX Planning Committee, led by its chairman, Barrister Mrs. Margaret Orakusi, paid a courtesy visit to Nigeria's apex maritime regulatory agency, Nimasa, last week. Present to receive the NIMAREX team was DG Nimasa, Zakede Patrick Akpobolo-Kemi, who was delighted in the NIMAREX committee members for always making Nimasa a priority when preparing for the yearly Maritime Expo. In Mrs. Orakusi's speech to the DG, she pointed out the tremendous role Nimasa had played over the years in ensuring that the Maritime Expo came out a success. She then went ahead to canvass the Director General's assistance in their preparations for the 2014 Maritime Expo, NIMAREX 2014. Mrs. Orakusi also used the opportunity to unveil this year's theme for the Expo, 100 Years of Maritime Development, to the DG Nimasa. Responding to the chairperson, Mr. Akpobolo-Kemi reassured the committee members of the agency's support to an expo such as NIMAREX, which he said could be compared to other maritime expo worldwide. NIMAREX is one of Africa's largest maritime events. It is an annual international exhibition and conference hosted by the Federal Ministry of Transport, her parastatals, and stakeholders in the maritime industry. The expo has since inception grown from strength to strength over the years to achieving its objectives.
The Costa Concordia was a luxury cruise liner operated by Costa Cruises. The cruise line ran aground off the coast of an Italian island in January 2012. The liner had over 4,000 passengers on board, out of which 32 died as a result of the vessel hitting a reef during an unofficial near-shore salute to local islanders. The cruise liner's captain, Francesco Schettino, was charged and later found guilty of abandoning his crippled vessel and passengers. The Costa Concordia is one of the largest ships ever to be abandoned. The vessel was over 950 feet long, which is roughly the length of 3 football pitches, with a gross tonnage of 114,000 tons. Having run aground so close to land, the cruise liner posed a clear and imminent danger to the ecosystem around the island. The clear risk of oil pollution and its devastating consequences on the aquatic life of the Mediterranean required that far and wide consultations take place to arrive at the best environmentally sound removal plan. The contract for the removal of the vessel was awarded to a Florida-based salvage and removal company, Titan Salvage, and an Italian undersea engineering firm, Mico Peri. Their assignment was to refloat and tow away the Costa Concordia. The righting and refloating of the liner was a technological breakthrough executed with scientific precision and accuracy. Because of the ecological disaster that the tragedy portended, as the partially submerged vessel was in danger of slipping into deeper water, precautionary measures, even before the salvage operation began, had to take place. The wreck was defueled by pumping its petroleum out into a nearby ship and its contents replaced with water so as not to dislodge the vessel's balance. The next step entailed the removal of her funnel, radar, water slide, and the building of an underwater metal platform and artificial seabed made of sand and cement, before steel sponsons were attached to the port side and partially filled with water. Pulling of the ship upright with cables over a 2-day period until it finally settled on the platform in a method called power buckling was the next step. The next process involved the welding of additional sponsons to the starboard side of the ship. Lastly, water was then pumped out of both sponsons to refloat the ship, after which it was towed to a harbor where the liner is undergoing its scrapping process. The entire wreck removal project took a period of 12 months and is recorded as the most expensive wreck removal operation of all times, costing a whopping $800 million.
And that brings us to the end of this week's edition. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, please don't forget, Nimasa This Week is an interactive show. We want to hear your comments, respond to your questions, and even your criticisms. All you need to do is send an email to the address currently showing on your screen. Now, I'm going to be here, same time, same station next week. Until then, we're wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.